Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I am Dana, and my guest is Richard Hall. And we have a great topic today that is something that a lot of people talk about all the time, but we don't have a lot of answers. And it is cyber security recruitment. How are people getting into this field, and how are people finding people to work for them in this field? So, how are you doing, Richard?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, welcome. We're happy to have you here. You're going to educate
Yeah,
us all on this whole big cybersecurity recruitment process.
I will try share a little bit of knowledge. I appreciate you having me on. I hope that your audience aren't too offended by my accent and it's not too strong.
Oh, don't be silly. Not at all. Not at all. All right. So we're going to get into our first question is what are the biggest problems in cybersecurity recruitment at the moment?
Yeah, so probably if I just tell people a little bit about who I am very quickly,
Mhm.
and sort of I can only really speak from what I see in the UK market. I don't deal with the US, but I'm the managing director for the UK market for a company called Elite Cyber. Quite a big company. We're doing really well at the moment, and the market is booming. But I'm trying to give my insider knowledge, if that's what you want to call it, from a recruiter's point of view working in specifically cyber security. So, yeah, the biggest challenges, the biggest problems that we're facing at the moment, shortages of candidates from a recruiter point of view. I don't want to say quality of candidate, but employers are very, very picky. And it's not that they shouldn't have high standards, but also I don't feel that all employers are very agile when it comes to employing people. There seems to be a trend of they advertise that to try and attract talent, the part of the job advert, the JD may be free tea and coffee, pizzas on a Friday. That's not what people are interested in. And a big pain for me is competitive salaries. We need to start telling people how much a job is going to pay. I understand why a business or a firm would label it as competitive, but ultimately, to attract talent, they need to know that it's worth their time to invest going through the application process. So there is a long list of challenges that I think is facing recruitment as a whole life cycle within cybersecurity. And I dare say it's the same probably in a lot of markets, but cybersecurity is very, very niche and it needs certain qualifications, certain experience, and just at entry level is very hard to get into. So I think probably some of the biggest issues that I'm seeing is uneducated candidates, and I don't mean from a qualification level. I mean uneducated in they think that they can send an application and that's it done. It takes a little bit of investment. You need to research the company that you are applying to. You can't just send an application to Talis or BAE and think that that's job done. You need to have a little bit more depth of knowledge in terms of the firm that you're applying to, why you actually want the job rather than just sort of scattergunning your CV everywhere. And unfortunately, you do have to tailor your CV to individual jobs as well. And I probably am just saying some things that people already know, but throughout this sort of interview, I'm not going to give brand new knowledge. There's not like, well, this is happening, get on top of it now. It is the same message. And if I can hammer home that message and really educate an individual and a firm as well into how maybe to speed up the process of recruitment and help with the process of recruitment, that's my aim from doing this.
Well, and I also think too, the businesses have to start taking cybersecurity more seriously because it's still kind of one of these things that nobody really wants to deal with. They want to throw minimum amounts of money at it. And we have to change our thought process. And I do think, unfortunately, it's going to be changed for us over the next few years because there's going to be more and more attacks on our competitors and they're going to go out of business. And then you're going to say, ooh, I better get my act together here. So they're going to need to realize, that they need to pay a little bit more. And just like you're saying, the people that are applying for the job, they need to help educate themselves on the company that they're applying to and what else they can do to better themselves, to be a match with that company as opposed to just willy-nilly sending in a an application. So
Absolutely. Yeah, from my point of view, there's two ways that you pay for cybersecurity. You either pay up front and get the individuals that you need and pay for the correct software, the correct tech guys, the correct infosec people, and you do that up front and you invest in your company in cybersecurity, or you will be attacked at some point, and then you're going to have to pay for it, whether it's through malware, ransomware. It's either at the front end or the back end, and
Yep.
either way, you are going to have to fork out, whether
Mhm.
it's an investment up front or you're paying after because you've been attacked. But
Mhm.
one way or another, you are going to have to pay for some sort of cybersecurity within your company.
Yes, yes. So that's the first thing we all need to embrace. So, what would you say that these are some of our biggest problems that we're talking about right now with our first question here, as far as in the recruitment process? It sounds like we kind of touched base on some of that. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think probably the biggest one, if we look at it from 2 points of view, from candidate point of view, prospective candidate and potential employer. From the employer, asking for a 2,000 word essay before they've sent an app, before a candidate's got through to first stage interview, that it's just a turn off to a
Mm,
prospective employee. So I think smartening up your whole life cycle of how you recruit, um, you know, a half an hour tech test, things like that. I'm not saying people are lazy, but naturally, as a human, you want to go easiest route possible,
mhm.
quickest route to market. And if there's a company that are offering double the salary you are, and a two-stage interview, and the two-stage interview is a Teams call and then a sit-down face-to-face, and that's it, job done, then which is a candidate going to go with?
Yeah.
They're not going to go to the person that they have to do a tech test for first. And I understand you have to qualify a person and do your due diligence,
Mhm.
but if they've to do a tech test, then first stage interview via phone call, then a Teams call, then a sit down face to face, then come back and meet with investors or hiring managers. By the time you've even got to that point, they've already had an offer. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's potentially more than what you may be offering,
Yep.
especially if you're offering competitive.
Mhm. Mhm. It sounds silly to go through all those hoops, but yeah, that's what's happening. So we can't really laugh at that. All right. So how can we open the door to professionals wanting to get into cybersecurity? This is, I think, another problem is the roadmap to get into here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel probably the expos and things in the UK, they do come across quite exclusive. I wouldn't say elitist, but they are a bit of a closed group. Now, I think the door should be open a little bit more to invite, not certainly not your general public, but if you're wanting to entice people into your brand and definitely into your cyber teams, then having an exclusive event might not be the right way forward. I'm not saying invite every recruiter along because that's probably not what you want, but definitely better advertisement, and definitely pushing the agenda more when you are holding an event and being open, a little bit more open minded to people from other sectors that have transferable skills and knowledge. But look, this is like anything. Cybersecurity, this needs to go back down to your grassroots.
Mhm.
Computer science in schools, ICT as it used to be in the UK. It, it is one of those lessons where it is important till it's not important.
Mhm.
If they need to, I was a PE teacher way back when, and if we needed to trim the fat somewhere because we were running out of time, the first lessons that normally went were your creative arts, your PE lessons, things like that. Everything that stayed was your English, maths, and science. And I get why that is. STEM is very important. And cybersecurity is something now, in my opinion, that needs to be taught at lower levels. It needs to be taught from grassroots up. It needs to be pushed in universities, college, so FE and HE over here, higher education, further education. I don't know that much about the American sort of education system, but I would put money on it that cybersecurity is probably not pushed as much as it could be at, you know, primary school level and secondary school level, or the equivalent of in the US. So for me, we need to be more open minded and willing to open the doors to individuals that don't necessarily have the right experience on paper, but maybe have transferable skills. Have
Mhm.
they worked in a different digital tech environment previously? Can we teach them on the job? Can we upskill them whilst in post? But also, we go back to the careers fairs, universities, colleges, secondary school, sort of job events, things like that. I think cybersecurity firms should be there. They should have a presence. So pupils and younger generations are asking the questions: Who are you? What are you? What do you do? And
Mhm.
that's where you start getting them hooked and telling them, because this is things that they're going to be dealing with in the future. Cyber is only going to, the longer the internet is around, the more threats there's going to be, the more attacks there's going to be, and they're going to be dealing with this in the future, regardless of whether they like to or not.
Mm-hmm. I think you're absolutely right with starting in the education systems too at the lower levels. This is a huge opportunity for schools, high schools, colleges, the younger ones to develop a program and give the young kids exposure to something like this. If they have an interest, it can, put a little path for them to pursue, because that's what I think is so fragmented, that, because it is still kind of new, it really is relative to some of the other, topics and studies that they do in school. So we really somebody needs to put some kind of plan in place for that. So that's another very important aspect of things.
Soundway Consulting has been helping the U.S. government and its business partners address today's most complex cyber challenges for over a decade. Soundway Consulting is a CMMC C3PAO candidate. Let them be your expert guide to CMMC compliance. They will provide a clear path to implementing cybersecurity processes and practices. They have a proven track record, and they warranty their work. Visit soundwayconsulting.com or call their office today.
All right. So what trends do you see coming in the market in the future?
Yeah, definitely. There seems to be a massive, massive need for pen testers.
Mm,
Those that are very techy, and as said, I've got some formal qualifications in cybersecurity myself, so I had depth of knowledge. I was in the military in a cyber role, but my background, I'm not a cybersecurity professional. I'm a recruiter. I'm
mhm,
actually a salesman, if anything. But I do see day to day different businesses, whereas some may only see what they see inside their industry and their business. But there's a massive need at the moment for anyone that's got experience within SOC, and definitely anyone that's got any sort of experience within penetration testing. It does seem that you need to have a couple of years experience, and rather than sort of go down another path. But we spoke earlier about what are some of the challenges, and one of the challenges is, it seems to be, you need to have 23 years experience but be
mhm,
23 years old. And I think
mhm.
we've discussed that previously
Yeah.
about, you need all the experience in the world, but we need you to be really young and not cost much. And
Right.
it just,
Exactly.
it's a bit incongruent, they don't complement each other. But
Mhm.
yeah, definite trends that I'm seeing. There's a massive need for penetration testers with experience, massive need in the SOC element, and definitely in the architecture part as well. They're the three areas that I see that are really exploding. There's obviously all your other stuff like SIM, etc., but they're just the three areas that I'm seeing that are really in heavy demand at the moment.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And again, if there was a specific roadmap that kids could take to say, okay, take this course first, because you're right, pen testing that's a huge, huge thing. And even like the social engineering aspect of, pen testing kind of thing. So it's stuff like that I think you're right. And if the young people are watching this, these are good fields for you to find a way to get into, because there's going to be huge opportunity for you.
And maybe not so much in the UK at the moment, but definitely EMEA, Europe, and the US. The salaries and bonuses and the add-ons and benefits that you can get from a company are ridiculous at the moment. People with 5 or 6 years experience getting six-figure salaries. Rightly or wrongly so, it is driving the market up. But a trend that we are seeing, and we're part of the RE group, which is Recruitment Entrepreneur, which is headed up by James Kahn, who was on Dragon's Den. And one of the things that we're seeing from that level is that we are sort of getting to a peak of where salaries and recruitment is being pushed and pushed and pushed. And personally, myself, and from what I've heard from other industry experts, we do think that bubble may burst at some point very soon. Definitely, definitely before mid 2022.
Oh, wow. That's pretty close to
Yeah.
busting. Okay. All right. So that's an important thing for people to realize. So why do you think it's going to bust? Just because it's gotten so big?
Well, obviously, anyone that follows trends, bust, boom, that sort of stuff. But
Mhm.
there's only so long that salaries can keep
Yeah, that's
hiking
true.
up, and I'm not talking by 2 or 3 thousand. I'm talking by 10, 15, 20,000 euros, dollars, pounds.
Mhm.
They are the excessive. Sorry, probably not excessive, but they're the big sums of money that people are getting dropped on them for just moving from one job to another. Not
Mhm.
necessarily even a promotion.
Mm. Wow, that's
Definitely,
very
if you're living in the right part of the country, if you're living in London, there is a premium to live in London. Most things are a little bit more expensive. Um, you can get an extra 10, 15, 20K on top of what you were already getting previously. And there's only so long that that can go on for.
That's yeah, that makes sense. Now, what about the virtual aspect of things with, the VCSOs and all that kind of stuff as far as recruiting? Are you involved in that part of it, or just more of the ones the company wants to hire somebody and that's going to be the person that's going to work at their organization and physically come into the organization as opposed to?
No, so we do quite a lot of stuff that it is, as anyone can remember, COVID impacted a lot of people, and I'll try not to go on about it too much. It's not something that I know too much about, but and it's very can divide. But ultimately, COVID has changed the landscape on how things work within recruitment businesses. It's just a fact. It's changed life forever. Um, we are definitely involved in fully on site, hybrid, and work from home full time. Never step foot in the office, it's a strange one to be involved in because some businesses are demanding like you need to be on site. This is a hands-on job doing this, which is fine. That's what they need. Some are saying, "Come and go as you please. Work 2 days a week in the office. Be at home for the others. Do what you need to do as long as it's done." And then others are saying, you don't even need to see us in person to get the job. So there's people starting jobs that have never actually met their colleagues. And in some cases, they've been there a year or two and they've never met a single person physically from the actual business, which is
Mhm.
crackers. But, it's whatever works for a business and whatever works for an individual. I personally, from my experience, we worked all the way through COVID. We was very lucky at the firm that we were at. But I think one of the big issues is you can't just think, right, everyone wants to work from home, or right, everyone wants to be hybrid and work at home on a Wednesday, or everyone wants to be in the office. That it needs to be tailored to the individuals within the organization. The organizations do need to come up there because if everyone just did whatever they want and everyone was mavericks, business wouldn't get done. But
Right.
also, it's understanding that some are younger and don't have kids, some are a bit more mature and do have kids. I know that if I need to do the school run, that needs to be done. There's no way around that. My wife works away. If I need to go do, my boss is very kind with that sort of stuff. I just
Mhm.
make it up later. But I think if I was still living at home, way back when, sort of 15, 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to work from home. Very nice that a company had provided a laptop, but we didn't have the infrastructure at home in terms of I'd have been sat on the end of my bed. We didn't have a room that we could have turned into an office. We didn't have the best internet in the world. So working from home wouldn't have really been an option for me. And I
Mhm.
know certainly from a mental health point of view, I don't like working at home full time.
Yeah.
I'm a people person. I like to be out there, but I don't know if I've gone off too much on a tangent there, but
No, no, no. You're dead
very
right.
topics within the one. But look, who am I to say what works? That's down to the individual and the business, and there's not so much one contract and that's what you sign. It's more tweaked and an agreement between hiring manager and individual and what they need between them. So the days of, oh, what do you get an hour? I need the same. It doesn't really work like that anymore. It's more you get that because that suits you and the boss is all right with that. And what suits the person next to you? Well,
Mhm.
you're not that person. So not keep your nose out, but
Yeah.
leave them to do what suits them because they've got an agreement with the boss.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you're right. Everybody has different needs. If you have kids, if you don't have kids, if there's a whole bunch of different reasons why people things. But I think with COVID, it kind of forced us to set up that infrastructure because everybody was forced to go home, was forced to,
Yeah,
work from home. And I remember the beginning Zoom calls were a hot mess, the static and people dropping off and all that because it wasn't really there. And then it very quickly over, a couple of months, huge improvements, and I'm sure they're still improving even more now. And it's just funny how I know people used to work at home before that, but now it's opened up a whole another
yeah,
world. People used to have to move to where they were going to work, and now you can work, like you said. So, and again, that doesn't appeal to everybody, but it's another option. So anyway,
absolutely.
yeah. Well, we have another question. Hold on a minute. How can we bridge the gap at entry level for cybersecurity professionals?
It's a tough one because a lot of businesses do require a little bit of experience. Some of your bigger players do have grad schemes, things like that, and they do really open the door for entry level recruits, entrepreneurs, businessmen and women. I think for myself, I think it's that businesses, big or small, but cybersecurity firms or anyone that has a cybersecurity entity within their business being seen earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion, if you get into your 30s and you're only just seeing an advert for a company for X, Y, or Z within cybersecurity, there's something wrong there. We need to be seeing these bigger players at least leading the way and being involved at university level, giving, whether it's TED Talks, it's
Mm-hmm.
speeches, whether they're doing, many recruitment companies are working within schools and things doing CV writing, and that's great. And I'm sure there are businesses that do this sort of stuff. I'm just saying it needs to be on the mass. It needs to be bigger.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
healthcare providers, the NHS, the police, the military within the UK, they're in schools, they're telling younger people, this is what we do. This is what you can do in the future. There's not so much of that from cybersecurity companies, or definitely not at any of the expos that I've been to.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be, like I say, this clique of, well, if you've got a qualification and a bit of experience, you come to the expo and we'll talk to you about working for us. When actually, if you target these people in secondary school and go through the right routes of following them to college, university, etc., having a presence at these big events that are at university level, just a bit of face time. I think people, the younger members of the cybersecurity community, will know who you are sooner
Mm-hmm.
rather than there's been an attack. We're now bringing in the people that we outsource our cybersecurity to sort this out for us, and it's going to cost. That's normally the first time that they hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
Most people think that a hacker is someone that sits at home with the hood up, you
Mm-hmm.
know, 16-year-old tinkering away on the laptop. When actually, in matter of fact, most of them are state sponsored and it's mass organisations. It is proper crime syndicates that are committing these crimes. From my experience, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure there's someone out there that will, correct me on that. But from the stuff that I've seen, it's been state sponsored stuff at a mass level.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. And even these ransomware attacks, this is a whole big business. They have help centers that these hackers can call. And I mean, it's crazy. You're absolutely right. It's huge. It's huge. And the state sponsored ones are obviously even bigger. So
Yeah.
yeah. So no, you're right. All right. Well, this was fantastic. Like I said, we had never touched this topic before. So thank you very much for bringing it up and helping us with all this info.
Thanks very much for having me on. I hope what I've sort of got out there is useful. Like I say, the majority of what I've said is not new to anyone, but if I can just sort of hammer home if you're a candidate, be proactive and go after it and don't just think it's going to come to you. And if you are a business, be a little bit more relaxed in your approach. Keep your
Mhm.
standards, have standards, that's great. But also don't sit back and wait for an application to come to you. Go
Mhm.
to the places where these people are being educated and let them know who you are early doors. Everything, in my opinion, is that long term game. So get in someone's face now, tell them who you are. It may be in 5 years that they come back to you, but how many people say, oh, when I was younger, I remember my teacher from school and they did this for me and I became a teacher because of that. Be that cyber security professional that someone remembers.
That's a really good point. That is a good point, because you do remember the teachers that, inspired you. So that was good. All right. Well, this was great. So thank you very much for your time. And I hope that you come back and we do another topic on something. And thank you, everybody out there, for watching and listening. And we hope to see you on the next episode.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.